The mighty Kratos must now bring the gods back down to earth. God of War 2. The end begins.
Rated M for mature.
Oh, is this the real shot? Like, hey, it's like, hey,
No,
I'm
that's
just
like Vaseline on the lens. So like, yeah, pretty much for the romantic shot.
This is a special note for the one-up show editor. We need the wide shot, and then we need to have like the shot that's where I'm like in a weird part of the quadrant.
You know, I think there's a crane outside over in the construction lot next door. We could do a crane shot.
That'd be pimp. And then also,
helicopter too.
Oh, I have needs. One moment. And so also, we need to have the shot where it's like close and then far away, and then like a strange tone. All of it bolstered with like a banging soundtrack, and then at the end, the slow motion ending.
Impromptu discussion.
Yeah.
Cheers, cheers.
To GDC.
Yeah.
Finally being over.
I only went to 2 speeches at GDC, but luckily one of them was Media Molecule, the guys who made LittleBigPlanet.
I think we can all agree that that was the most impressive game at the show, right?
Yeah.
That everybody's talking about and was the most exciting, and really the theme of their speech, they took great pains to say it was not about the game, it was about them creating a studio, because they came from Lionhead. Their whole philosophy is like keep the team really small. They wanted to make a game that let people be creative, and really most of the session was about how hard it is to do what they did, to split off and make a small team and not just worry about a game, but worry about, administration and getting along. They were really, really super honest about it. They showed an early prototype of the game, which they made, which was just a box guy, and he was running around and just grabbing, circles and running around on pieces of ice that were sort of separating. But you could totally see, even seeing that, super simple, not even graphics, you already saw what was cool about the game, what was exciting about the game.
What did you think about the reception to the Little Big World showcase?
LittleBigPlanet.
LittleBigPlanet, sorry.
I thought the reaction to LittleBigPlanet was fantastic. And every time we've shown that game internally up until now, it's always had a tremendous reaction. But when you've got 5,000 people laughing and cheering and clapping, it's very, very exciting.
So.
Well, Reggie was here from Nintendo, and he didn't look as excited as you guys did.
Sony just got it. Sony saw the video and wanted them to play up the parts of it that they were worried about playing down, that they were kind of keeping secret or downplaying. It sounded like they didn't even meet with Microsoft or consider going multi-platform. Which is funny because most people who saw that game really thought it was like a Nintendo game.
Except for the high-definition next-generation graphics that probably wouldn't work on the Wii.
We got a lot of heat on the boards for getting so excited about that game.
But everybody at GDC.
I know, and I think the people that haven't seen it or haven't been in any of the presentations are like, what is the big deal? It just looks like a platform game, and like, but I mean, I think everyone misinterpreted a lot of the comments that we were making on the show and in the blogs and everything. I mean, it is definitely that user-generated thing, and you know, we've been trying to compare it to something, and it's like
there's nothing like it.
It's more important than the level editors that we used to have in game. It's more important than time splitters, and then we tried putting it in context with something like XNA, which is a completely different idea. But it's, I mean, it's in the same spirit. It's like handing things over to the users.
I had always talked about until Apple or someone like that had released a program that existed on every Mac that was sold, that was essentially like a game creation tool where you could just like pop a few little things in and like, hey, there you go, have your own little fun experience to fuck around with, and then upload it so that people could play with it, and like, you know, it would just essentially be like the Line Rider phenomenon, but with more tools at your disposal.
Big part of the fun about it is just like you're going to be able to go on there every day and see like all the new levels that people are putting up there and rating them and seeing which ones are the best ones. And then eventually when the retail version comes out and you can have some of the best levels in stores, I mean, that's fantastic. Right. Like if I could have my level in EV like right now, like I could just tell my friend, go down to the store and buy it.
A lot of the user-created levels, let's be realistic about this, are going to be garbage.
But that's why you can sort.
If you have a good filtration system, it doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, the first few days of YouTube, it was like, you know, people just pointing the camera at themselves. I mean, and that's why it's so different from any other game, and that it's not just going to peak day one, everyone's going to buy it. It's going to peak multiple times over a period of time.
XNA has been talked about at GDCs for like 3 years. We've seen little fruits of the labor, and the fact that it keeps getting brought up in comparison to LittleBigPlanet, I think, is like diminishing the importance of LittleBigPlanet. Kind of skip over the biggest news of the week, I felt, which was Sony's announcement, the keynote, Phil Harrison's announcement of Home, which we all knew was coming and kind of leaked out a little early. And I, for one, had really high expectations, and they were met. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, like will we be able to get from where we are now to where they're promising we're going? Right. But I think in terms of feature set, it's phenomenal.
Home is a 3D community for PlayStation 3. It's an interactive virtual space where users meet up, hang out, and explore a connected world. It's free of charge and available directly from the PlayStation 3 cross-media bar.
They've been working on this thing for like 3 years now or whatever, so it's not just like some kind of reaction to whatever's been out there.
Here's my question though, why didn't they build in the achievement system into the launch games, and then just when Home comes out, you have the trophies there?
They're also not making achievements mandatory. I mean, that was in the FAQ. It's not required of games to have trophies.
There's a lot that we don't know about it yet. Like I was talking to Phil after GDC, and he was like, there's so much I really still want to tell you guys about the achievements and trophies and stuff like that, but
I will say, overall they have been pretty open about it. There's a huge FAQ you can look at online, and Phil Harrison's been answering questions that people have, and
it's been a very different, it's kind of different from how Sony's been.
Yeah, I like it.
He's
I like
been very
the new
forthcoming. Like in your interview where you asked him about, and now we know about Rumble.
After months and months and months of like, well, the controller's great because it's really light. Now Rumble's going to make the controller a little heavier. I mean, that's a bit of a PR nightmare to sort of have backed away from a tech, and that'd be like, we're all back together again, and it's okay. So for PlayStation gamers, what does this mean going forward?
Well, first of all, we just kissed and made up. So we've just settled our differences, and as we've said in the announcements, we're looking forward to exploring ways to work together, and it's genuine. You know, those are really the intentions. As to previous statements that I made, what do you expect me to say? We were in a lawsuit. We were in litigation. You know, of course I have to defend our view.
Oh, look, he's human.
Oh, look, part of PR's lying.
Right.
I'm surprised.
Over time, Home will grow into a virtual network of spaces, both public and private. Once you've made friends in Home's public spaces, you can easily invite them back to your invitation-only space.
It almost seems overdeveloped. I don't want a 3D MySpace as a way to like link up with my friends.
I totally agree. I'm gonna be with Kathleen. Like, it looks fine. If people want that, then it's gonna be great for them. But I don't.
People do want that.
a lot of people do, and I think there's people who don't, and I'm one of them.
Well,
like, I don't.
What if you don't know yet that you really
I
know?
I know, because I'm not a MySpace person.
You don't have to use it to play online games. That's the other thing. Like, no one's making you go on home.
It's driven by ad content, and if you think that we're not going to be made to walk past those, you know, real-time physics ad banners, like, I don't want to have to walk over to my friend's place. And there is a roadmap that you can.
No, I don't.
like
Like
jump
Phil
through,
said,
but,
there's like
I
no
want
functionality really that's going to be in home that will be missing from your experience, like in the dashboard.
As long as it's just as an option and not pushed as this is where everyone needs to be, I'm totally fine with it.
What I do like about home is it's the first time I see Sony not playing catch up. It's them actually like proactively thinking. It's them like, I would say, pulling a Nintendo. What Microsoft has done with their online is give you what you want. What Nintendo has done is given you what you didn't even know that you wanted, but it's cool.
Not giving you what you want.
Well, and that's true to some degree. And the same thing with Sony hasn't done either up until now. But now with this, as long as it does have the option to strip away the stuff and just give you, I just want to find friends and play a game with them.
They need to.
Then it's them leapfrog. It's them finally giving you something like beyond.
See, I think a lot of us were just getting kind of pissed off because it seemed like Sony wasn't listening. They were like, "We're Sony. We do it our way. You guys don't really need achievements. You don't really need any of this." They actually had a plan in place. And we have to see if it actually turns out to be all that cool. Like
the negative reactions I've been hearing around here and people in the industry, it's all from people who they're very used to Xbox Live and that's what they want.
Xbox Live delivers for me. Like when I want to do something, I can do it in Xbox Live.
It doesn't deliver to actual community. I mean, we all like Xbox Live because we can find our friends easily and play online, but there's no actual community. You're not going to meet people and there's no community. This actually has that.
That's not for everyone though.
But
online
it is
communities, it's not for everyone.
Yeah, MySpace is for a lot of people.
Right, but it's not
social
for
networking sites are for the mass public, and that's the people who are going to be interested in this. Like when you showed somebody who's never played an online game 5 minutes of Xbox Live or 5 minutes of home, which one do you think the average consumer will think is more exciting?
Differentiate between the average consumer and the average game player. Is this going to expand the audience if someone who's not really into games hasn't had PS3?
All those casual games like the bowling and the pool and stuff, like your mom might be like, oh, I want to play some bowling.
$600 and
but wait. I mean, the price is gonna come down over time. You know, Sony is thinking of this like for the next couple of years.
It's like people are punishing them for being forward-thinking, punishing them because it isn't what they want. But
there's skepticism though. I'm not blindly going, awesome. They've answered it because they haven't yet.
Your life, your network, your home. Only on PlayStation 3.
I think the one other game that probably people were talking about the most, and it wasn't really a game from GDC, it was from Microsoft's pre-GDC thing, was Mass Effect. Because they finally showed like the beginning of that game, and you got a much greater sense of what the game was actually going to be like.
Right now, you can play it from beginning to end. I know they're just cleaning it up, they're getting the frame rate right, they're tweaking the graphics. I don't know if you've seen this stuff. Right now, some of the scenes, right? There's some stutter, and some of the scenes don't look as good as the stuff that they showed at E3. The things with a lot of people said that the eyes look kind of dead, and like, one of the big things about it when they showed it at E3 was the eye contact and the body language.
We have a team that'll go the extra mile to do that last little. The eyes aren't quite right. Let's fix those. And so I think I think our goal is really just to make it just seem really amazingly real, and it's a huge challenge. It's one of the biggest challenges you can have in this type of entertainment, like the digital entertainment, creating true digital actors. I guess we don't really worry as much as because we just feel like we're going to accomplish it.
But the thing that everyone's been asking about is about how the combat system works, because every time they've shown it, it's not been clear, because they've shown it and made it look like a little bit Graw and a little bit full spectrum warrior, and it's not been entirely clear.
There's different layers of accessibility in the combat. You can access it as more of an action style combat, where your party members act autonomously. They're smart, they have good AI, they're going to use their talents, their body powers, weapons, tech abilities, and they're going to act autonomously to support you in battle. They're going to do the right thing. It's actually really cool to see them smartly deploying, and you're moving forward and you're attacking some enemies and using your powers, and you're seeing your teammates kind of flanking you and doing really cool things. Now, if you want to take it a layer deeper, you can use the squad command interface to tell them where to deploy on the battlefield, who to attack. And that's really, really easy to use, very intuitive. Use the D-pad and just kind of direct them to a specific place, and they run there. You can lay waypoints effectively kind of running along, and they basically run from place to place. You can tell them to target specific enemies, and they'll use their robotic powers, their weapons to take those enemies out as best they can. And then there's a layer below that. If you really want to micromanage the details, you can pause the game and kind of go into sort of a pseudo turn-based mode where you assign specific actions one by one to your squad mates. You want players to have the challenge through through the tactical elements and choosing what you're doing in the battle, not by limiting them through the interface. So we spent a ton of time iterating and improving the interface to make it really polished.
To me, what it seems like is you're going to let everything in general take its course, and then if you are almost about to die or you're fighting a boss, you probably will be like, okay, whoa, hold on a second, like I'm going to actually like piece this out. Which, I mean, if it really does work as well as they're saying on auto battle, it is potentially like the best of both worlds. I mean, that's how they're pitching it.
I was feeling a lot of video games music talk going on at the show, especially since Video Games Live was in town.
Seeing Koji Kondo I mean, that was the reason I was there, really. I mean, like, that was incredible. And then we ran into what's Mario voice guys? Oh, Charles, yeah. He was really funny. Yeah, like we got to talk to him for a bit and.
Yeah, so thanks for talking with us, Charles.
Hey, sure.
Yeah, so tell us about your involvement in the show.
Well, I think I'm just going to come on and do a quick little something, woohoo, and mamma mia, and have a rot today, something like that,
Have you been to the show before?
I've never seen the show. I've seen it on the webpage, the Video Games Live webpage, and I love it. It looks so fantastic. So.
Yeah. And what do you think about, like, now that you're seeing some of the rehearsals and
It's
whatnot?
incredible. It's so fun. It's so beautiful. Yeah. It's really amazing.
What would Mario think of the show?
He'd say, mamma mia, this is a number one. Woohoo!
Great. Whoa.
You see? There you have it.
The feeling at this GDC really seemed to be one of like independent, grassroots sort of user-generated. That barrier between gamers and developers is getting so very thin.
It's like everything else on the web. It's community, and it's like a game being released and being patched and evolving, and like it sounds like Sony's gonna go more and more that way. Maybe releasing like the core of a game and then building upon it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's all heading that way.
そういうゲームともう一つやはり 今日もちょっと発表していたソニーの中でやってましたけど、インディペンデンスゲームみたいなものがやはりとても少ないし、予算もやっぱりゲームはかかるので、何か予算があまりかからずにもっとみんなが自由にできる環境っていうものが出てこないと、僕は今39歳なんですね、だけどやっぱり20歳の若いクリエイターたちが出てくる土壌が今日本だと全くないんですね、それはすごく危機感を感じてる。で周りにいるクリエイターもみんな30歳ばかりなんだ、30代ばかりなんですね。だから20代の若いクリエイター、それから10代の若いクリエイターが出てくる基礎を作らないと絶対ゲームはダメになるって思います。
Generally, when I come out of GDC, I just feel like I feel all creative and it's like I can do anything, and these guys are putting together such cool shit.
And what was your name?
Jonathan Mack. It still is my name.
It still is right now?
My name.
Is this the first game you've made?
No, I've made other games in the past, but they're not as...
Okay, I want to try this. So the music in it, is that just something that you...
So the music is, there's this background, okay, all the sounds and the music is guitars.
Okay.
So what happens is there's this background music, you can't really hear it because the volume is low, but when you shoot things, it plays like a note, like a guitar note or a guitar riff.
Okay.
So it kind of makes you feel like you're making things sing. I guess that's kind of the way I look at it. But I mean, first and foremost, it is a shoot 'em up. Like I built it to be a fun shooter.
Yeah.
So
do you have a musical background? Did you do the music for this?
One day and I bought a guitar, the cheapest one they had, and yeah.
And then you made this game.
Whatever.
You can't get mad at your own game. You made it.
I know it's. I'm under pressure here, man. Oh, okay, I'll show you.
The thing is, it sounds and looks cool even when you do badly. It reminds me of like every Extend Extra that way,
Or like
where
Luminous was
or
a
like Luminous,
Res
and Geometry Wars.
Parsec 47.
This is amazing. So it's like a sketch, and you just did this last week, you say?
So easy. It's like there's other effects I want to do, but I mean I don't want to get into the whole techno explanation. It's actually.
Yeah, it looks like a live action charcoal drawing.
Yeah, totally. So like, but then you can do it in color. So all the effects are mixable. So what I want to do is at the end, you can unlock this feature where you can throw up like the effects board in the middle of the game. And you can turn effects on and off, like real time. So, because that's really what it is, right? So the graphics are actually done by code. There's no sprites or models or anything. It's just, what you're looking at is mathematical functions, pretty much. I like using programming to make visuals because then you can have it, like, you can tell each of those explosions are the same, but they're actually really different. Just like how snowflakes, no two snowflakes are alike. So, and that's, you know, the gameplay's like that because all the enemies spawn randomly, but with a certain logic, and same with the music. So there's a lot of chance in the game, a lot of randomness. This guy's a bitch to kill. I mean, wait, you guys are PG-13.
No, you can say all the swears.
Fucker. Okay. Well.
I found this game months ago online, and I put it in the magazine. It's the art style is what's really cool. It looks like someone just ripped up shreds of paper and like left them on the paper. But you rotate the world to navigate around. So you move the guy, and then the world flips around you.
Is this one of those 100 free games?
This is one of those. No, actually, I found this after. That's the problem with like when I do that 101 free games feature every year. It's tough because there's so many great ones, and then like of course as soon as I run the story, there's like 100 more that show up like this.
So here's one.
For next year.
For next year. Put it in the queue. Oh, and look, he's ripped to pieces. I like this too. Look, they got like their business cards.
Yeah, they're keeping it. You know what? They're keeping in theme.
I can't even read. Oh, and yet it moves. At dot qt.
QT?
At. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe they should have gone with a printer.
So this is a pretty sweet shooter. It's kind of like Galaga and Tetris at the same time. yesterday that they actually have a DS version he put together.
A DS version?
Yeah.
This was my first term project at the Guild Hall at SMU. 3-month dev time. I was a sole developer, created everything other than the music. And then for my final project at the Guild Hall, I took it and ported it to the Nintendo DS. Another 3-month dev time. No access to official Nintendo development kit, so it's all the sort of reverse engineer, homebrew, hacking, lack of any debug tools.
Not endorsed by Nintendo of America or Nintendo Japan.
No, not endorsed by either. Although, I'd love to see it actually as a real Nintendo DS game in stores.
Yeah, you hear that, Nintendo?
Yeah.
These are the guys who are taking all the big chances.
Right.
These are the guys who are doing all the cool things that everyone else is not even thinking about.
Well, these are the guys who, because of the independence, they aren't tethered to, EA. They aren't under constraints of deadlines and budgets. These guys are just doing it because they love it and they want to do it. It takes them doing this, then getting hired to crush their spirit.
And here's looking forward to those days when they get their spirit crushed.
They had the little contest right at the show where you had 3 days to make a game using XNA.
Well, yeah, I think it was all told 4 days. And they started with, Microsoft provided these monster machines that were completely blank slates. They started with nothing and made 4 games. One of the games I would say is a complete experience. I can see it's probably nearly done. That was the one by the NeoGAF kid, Josh Ghost. And it was really interesting, and it was very simple, and I can see how it'd be fun. It needs a lot more polish, obviously.
It's like Geometry Wars Tunnel.
Do you think that Microsoft sent Last Alarm to die?
Yes. So it started off with the notion that we were going to build a all-star dream team, have people come in and really knock a top-end game out in 4 days. But that's not really who we designed the product for. And so we kind of retrenched and said, what is it we really want to showcase? It's really how easy the tools are to use by enthusiasts, hobbyists, small indies. And so we looked throughout our community in terms of people that were doing interesting things and just asked them, would you like to come in here, be caged for 4 days, basically, and write a game?
So who's the winner?
Well, that's just it, right? It's not a competition, and they're all winners out of this. It was just more of a demonstration of the technology. And I think in looking at all the games, I think the community will agree, because they're now available for download, that we've got tremendous amount of diversity in the games. An RPG game in 4 days. Wow, amazing. It looks fantastic. We have Josh's game from the UK, which is a great 4-player multiplayer co-op game, which is phenomenal.
Ricochet.
And then we've got a voice and speech recognition based game, which I haven't seen very many of those, and that one is actually quite entertaining.
Earthquake. Darkness.
So for a variety of different reasons, all of these games sort of came out on top. They all stepped up for the challenge. They had 4 days to do this, and they delivered. They delivered big.
It's a shame that we didn't hear anything from Nintendo, because having talked to some developers, there are people working on, I guess, indie type of games for Nintendo right now too. Unfortunately, Nintendo wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, I was really disappointed by Nintendo at GDC. They had a presence, and Miyamoto gave a keynote, and they had some key sessions like the Zelda guy, the Elite the Agents guy, but they really couldn't talk about much, and it just seemed like their overall message was stay the course. Nintendo is expanding the market. We love our children and wives. We're very friendly.
One of the most interesting things from the show that I took out was that people talking about LittleBigPlanet as if it were a Nintendo game. And then this awesome new footage of Super Mario Galaxy, which got a lot of attention, but not as much as this Nintendo game by Sony.
Yeah, you mean missed opportunities there. Yeah.
Nintendo's not even doing now what Xbox did with Xbox Live. In terms of online, Nintendo's not an online console for pretty much all intents and purposes, especially when you consider what Sony and Microsoft are doing.
Hearing the GameSpy stuff that's coming out, maybe something is happening, but you don't think that's going to come to
fruition?
You've
been hearing Nintendo and GameSpy collaborations for the last 3 or 4 years.
Mario Kart did you play online, Shane?
With Sony such an emphasis online, Microsoft such an emphasis online, it would be fantastic. I would not mind it if If it meant Metroid Prime didn't have online play, if it could mean that when online does come to Nintendo games, it is finally that unified system, one login, friends list, all of that stuff, I'd happily have them take their time to do it. I hope that's what they're doing. If they're just taking all this time and it's more numbers, then that's really going to suck.
They'll get the online right for the next version of the Wii.
I left with just a much better perspective on where the industry is going, especially where Sony's trying to lead the industry, and not to and this isn't from talking with Sony necessarily, this is from talking with a lot of developers who are working on things for Sony right now that, they couldn't even go into detail yet, but the fact that what Sony is planning with the online, with the PS Network, in terms of having games on the network first and then going to retail later is very, very interesting, and something that we're going to hear a lot more about in the next couple months.
It's great for me to go to GDC because it's so different than all these other events we go to, because you get to be right there with people who love games as much as we do. I left so full of creative energy, which is no other event that we ever go to do I leave like that. I normally leave just drunk.
Betrayed by the gods and cast into Hades, Kratos must now do like no other before him, alter his fate and bring the gods back down to earth. God of War 2. The end begins.
Rated M for mature.
Hey, get over here. Get in my office immediately. I need to talk to you.
You wish you were Dan Shu.
He's not here today, so I get to use his office. So sit down. I want to talk to you about this story.
You're ridiculous.
Think of it, Jiggy? You'll get to see me, Captain Quark, in mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, high-definition detail. Oh yeah, and there'll be some furry guy with his little robot pal. If only we had some footage to show you.
Captain Quark, we have the trailer right here.
Does this game really look this good?
It looks better than that, dude. It looks way better than that.
I saw the video, and it does look good, but I don't know, these screens, man, it looks like...
I'll tell you one thing about that video that they showed. The game, when they actually were playing it in front of me, looked better than that. I think people, even I think Cesar was there, and Matt was there, and I think they all can agree that the game, when they actually playing it, looks better than those screens and the video.
It shows 3 seconds of this boss encounter, and that looks really cool, but how does it actually play?
Okay, so I mean, that boss encounter is crazy. Basically, one thing is the game's very platform heavy compared to Deadlock. It starts off with, you're on rails and you're kind of jumping over like these missiles are coming at you while you're grinding. And then all of a sudden, you kind of get behind this glass, and you start shooting the missiles at you and start destroying the rail. So you have to jump over the missiles, plus the gaps in the rail, plus glasses, shards of glass are flying at your face, so you really can't see what's going on. Then all of a sudden the camera pans to in front of you, so you're kind of going at the boss, and you have to dodge things going. Then it turns you upside down, and you have to fire at his weak spot. Then he sends these helper robots who have their own kind of defense mechanism, and that's half of the boss fight. So it gets really freaking crazy.
It almost sounds like they've gone more of a Zelda or Mario event-based boss encounter.
I think that's one thing they are.
Deadlocked, I mean, we went to this like
You mean
squad.
the Halo?
Yeah, like this squad base was more of a shooter, and like I want to see this get back to the platforming more.
Yeah, well, I mean, I asked them about that, and they said like Deadlock was roughly like an 80-20 split between platforming shooting platformer, which I swear God is more like 90-10 to me. But this one's like 60-40, because I think they realized they were going a little bit too far away from what the product originally was with the last. And they say they had to change things up, but I was like, I just think they kind of went maybe too far.
They definitely put the design back to like the cute, cuddly Ratchet. He's not like this badass Master Chief.
No, I don't know if that's gonna change. I mean, if he gathers new stuff, because I mean that's a big part of Ratchet. No joke, that game looks that damn good. Like it's funny, like people like Luke, people like John Davison, who've seen these screens. Like everybody who's seen the screenshots has been like, holy shit, like that's PS3.
When you see the trailer, the beginning of it is the same thing they showed at the GDC last year, where just the city, it looks kind of like Coruscant from Star Wars Episode 1.
Totally does.
And it is all real time, and there's like a million cars and roadways, and I wonder, will you actually get to explore that city, or is it just part of a cutscene?
That's where like the trailer and the demo starts. Like literally, that is the first scene you see, and like all this stuff. So like you have all these like traffic whizzing by and shit, and then you have like the mortars like coming down and raining down into the city. So all that kind of shit, like, and they show us about half that level, and you start to get nearer that area. I don't know if like you actually, I imagine you do get into that like city and stuff, which would be cool. This is very like a jungle environment with like, kind of cityscape in between, but there's other ones that look, there's like a prison that's like a floating prison and shit.
So, I mean, besides the graphics, what's next gen here? Is he using the 6-axis for anything?
Yeah, so, obviously, Ratchet's weapons are like a big thing. Like, Resistance had great weapons, Ratchet has always had good weapons. And so they show us one thing called a tornado launcher. So you basically shoot out a tornado, and it basically just gathers up all the enemies like into a big tornado. And you can guide the tornado using the 6-axis. But the cool thing is you can actually independently control Ratchet with the left analog stick. So it's kind of like controlling two things at once, which I thought was pretty cool. And they said they are looking at different ways to use the controller. And
but this isn't going to have any multiplayer, right? No online?
They wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't talk about multiplayer, really. No, and I have a funny feeling they're not going to do multiplayer. Personally, I'd rather have them blow out the single-player game. Like, I feel like the last two Ratchet console games were a little short for the single-player, and cross fingers, make an online co-op game. If you're going to make something online or multiplayer, make it online co-op. Like, have one person control Ratchet, one person control Clank. Or there's actually another character, like kind of a girl kind of Lombax that you meet in this game. Maybe you'll control her. And there's also like space combat portions, like, you're back to being in a ship, and like it's very Star Fox, it's on rails, but it looks really cool. The graphics are amazing, and like maybe there's like mini games like that we can play online, like leaderboards or something. But I imagine it will have an online component, just because Insomniac has done that for a lot of games with Resistance, with the past Ratchet games. But I would rather see online co-op than like a competitive. Game, I felt very Pixar-y to me, like the vibe to it. Like, I'm not saying it's a Pixar, it's like you're not gonna walk away like, is this a Pixar movie, but it has that kind of like feel, like the animations feel very dramatic.
Greetings, cadets! Insomniac Games has asked me, Captain Quark, to talk about their next big game for the PlayStation 3.
They were talking to me about the game, talking about the new cast. They were telling me about these two characters. Actually, they're robots of the female Lombax, and one is called Kronk and one is called Zephyr, and obviously that Zephyr is the code name for that 360. Right. And like they hate each other, and one is like has like Blu-ray technology, and the other one has like advanced online capabilities. And if that's like just the start of their humor, like I can imagine what the whole game is like. Talking about humor, one of the funnier weapons is called the Groovatron. Instead of like a grenade to stun your enemies, you throw a disco ball, and it spins, and all these guys will actually like start dancing in like unison, like a boy band, I call it. And it's perfect animations. It's really funny. Like
awesome. The original Insomniac, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker did that like 20 years ago. All right.
They just shipped Resistance, and like they already have like basically a full-blown game.
And this is coming out this fall.
It's coming out this
for
fall.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and since they're independent studio, like they are not owned by Sony. They are. I think people forget that they are not owned by Sony. they have to, you know, basically their goal is to release a game per year, and like I think what they're going to do is release Ratchet this year, Resistance 2 next year, and then kind of do every other year. Because for a while it was like Ratchet, and then they had that chance with the PS3 launch, and they could try something new. So now they're just kind of going to go every other year, which is great because I don't need these games every year. I'm pretty excited. I mean, I have to say I'm. Like, the fact that Mr. PS3 hater Luke Smith saw the screenshots and thought it looked cool and got really excited when he saw it, I was like, it's doing its job. I mean, how can you not be impressed by a screenshot like that? Looks good.
Excellent, man. Get back to work.
And you make a mess.
Clean it up. Clean it up.
I ain't doing shit. You're not sure.